Good evening, everybody. My name is Maria Mutu. I am the founder, the owner, CEO, and the creator of the ZipZipMask, which is a vertical zipper mask used in indoor masking or anywhere that um, masks are required. However, it is not just about a dope cover. This is also how we are unzipping our journeys and no longer masking our traumas. Today, we were supposed to have a discussion with Parents Against Bullying in Virginia, Chantal White. However, she wasn't feeling well, so we are going to go ahead without her and reschedule her for another day. And we also hope that she feels better. Uh, I am going to be joined today by Marc Agboka of Music and Mental Health, and I see that he's on. So just give me one moment to bring him on. And while I'm doing that, bear with me one second. I'm just going to let you know that, yes, my eye is swollen due to allergies and rubbing, and then it turned into this bad boy right here. I wanted to be in the spotlight, so I went ahead and I'm shining the light on it. Hi, Marc. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I am well. Thank you so much. So I know today we're supposed to talk about the effects of bullying on mental health. However, we're going to go ahead and switch gears with that, and we're going to wait for Shanta to feel better, and then we're going to go ahead and invite her back when she does feel better. I hope she um, does that. No, before the weekend is over, so that she can enjoy her weekend and things like that. But today we are going to talk about positive and negative self-talk and the people around us as well. So the effects of negative talk during a time of crisis or mental health crisis and during moments of healing, right? And
Mhm.
I take mental health very seriously, of course, because of the things that I've told you about and told people about during my situation. But this particular subject is important because when somebody invades your space mentally
Mhm.
and disturbs your tranquility, it can have such an adverse effect on work-life balance and all of those things, at home, at work, everywhere. So we're going to go ahead and dive into it. Um, when have you, and I thank you, Marc, for helping figure out what this topic today is going to be about. I really appreciate that.
Right, no problem.
Okay, so when have you experienced a moment where someone has said something negative um, to you or around you?
So just to let y'all know, we had to kind of divert this topic and come up with this pretty quickly. So anything that you hear from me is just kind of, I'm thinking of it now and thought of it a little before the live. I don't have a specific situation right now in mind, but I do have plenty of times where I can think of where I was moving towards a positive direction when it comes to my mental health journey and when it comes to my recovery.
Mhm.
And then somebody might make a comment. And people always say, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. As we talked about before, words can hurt you. Words can be really powerful. And if
Absolutely.
you internalize those words, it could be something that somebody just said to you. They're not thinking about it anymore. It's gone.
Right.
But for you, it sits with you. It sits in your mind and it sits in your heart. And it can have negative effects on you if you're not fully grounded. So I have definitely been put in situations where people have said things to me that have negatively impacted me in that way. And also, I have had things that people have said to me that have positively stayed with me as well, I
Mhm.
will say.
Same here. I mean, there have been instances where somebody has said, and some were intentional and some weren't, where it just kind of just sat with me and I really thought about it and I had to dig myself out of that negative space because I knew that if I kept it there, it was going to impact what I'm trying to do in my life, in my children's life, in my home life, and work life. So I can completely understand, that. So,
Mhm.
how did you feel about it? How did you feel about when somebody said something negative to you?
How did I feel when they said
Yeah,
something
at that
negative to me?
moment, did you recognize that it was a negative comment, or did you recognize that it was something that was potentially going to impact your mental health wellness?
So there's different types of people in the world. And I
Hmm.
know that there's some people who, when somebody says something negative, they always catch that thing right away and they have a response right away, whether it's to the person or whatever they feel is
Hmm.
right away.
Right.
I'm a very introspective thinker.
Hmm.
So sometimes somebody could say something to me that was a double-edged sword,
Right.
and I might not realize it right at that time. And then I
Hmm.
go home, I'm by myself, I'm sitting down, I'm thinking about it. I'm like, that might have been something that was intended to hurt me.
Right.
And then I'm like, why would they say something like that? And then it's something that festers inside of me. And especially if I'm not
Hmm.
seeing or talking to the person right away, it's kind of building up. So yeah, I have had that kind of situation happen to me
Mm.
also.
Me too. But for me, it depends on the mood I'm in. It depends on the mood I'm in, and sometimes I'll say I'm an Aries, so I can either go this way or that way. Meaning I could be calm and cool and let you say what you got to say because it's not really bothering me at that moment. But if I go home and think about it, I'm like, what the wait just a minute. She just or he just said that, or if I'm in a mood where it's like today's the day where I'm going to just be a witty person or whatever. However I get up, I guess, if I'm going to be a witty person, you're going to hear what I have to say and you're probably not going to like it.
Yeah,
That's
I
just
get
me.
you,
Huh?
and I said I definitely get you. And for me, because of my usually calm demeanor,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I catch people by surprise
Ah.
because because I have a meter. The meter can only go so high, and then once it gets to that point,
Oh,
that might be the person who said the thing that I would usually let go,
yeah,
and I turn up.
right. But wait, I like it because when people aren't expecting something and it happens and they know that you have a mental health thing, they think it's mental health, but guess what? It's not my mental health. It's me responding to your negativity. It's me responding to what you think you're going to do or say to me and me let it go. And those are the people it's like, oh my God, they must be going through something. No, you just said something really reckless and I'm going to correct you right on the spot. Believe me or not. That's the kind of situation. Sometimes it happens. It happens, but
Mm-hmm.
now they know, right? Yeah. Um, were you ever able, like, when you're caught up in a negative in negative situations, or when somebody's saying something negative either to you or around you, have you ever been able to diffuse that situation or walk away, or how do you handle that?
Yeah, I've definitely had both of those
Mm.
people saying, negative things to me or around me. So
Mhm.
it's two different things. If it's
Right. It
directly
is.
to me, if it's two different things. If it's directly to me, I always think of the source of who's talking to me.
Mm.
It used to be a situation where anybody who said something negative, it's going to get in my mental space and it's just going to impact me and it's going to ruin my day and it's going to be kind of just toxic energy that sits with me.
Mhm.
I got to a space where I was like, the only people that can affect me in that type of way are the very close ones that I allow into my circle.
Mhm.
And if it's one of those people, that's somebody who I've probably explained about my mental health
Mhm.
situation
Mhm.
and they know about it. So I know that after some time, once I've kind of cooled down from whatever they said,
Mhm.
because that's important for me too, not
Mhm.
reacting right in the moment.
Mhm.
I can go back and revisit the conversation with the person and be like, okay, this thing that you said was hurtful to me, and here's why. And I just want to talk it out and see kind of where your mind was at, and if you can see where I'm coming from with it. Now, if it's, yeah, were you going to say something?
Yeah, because I mean, I hear you, and I don't know that I want to revisit a conversation where somebody said something negative. I mean, yeah, we talk about loved ones and things like that, but is it really always our responsibility to go back to the person and say, hey, what you said hurt me, and what you said, da da da? Like, what do you think that's our responsibility just because we are the ones that have a mental health diagnosis? Because it doesn't mean mental health diagnosis doesn't mean that we stop being that person. You understand? Like, how can I phrase it? Like, we're gonna have a situation, and it is what it is. I'm like that. Like, it is what, yeah, I had a diagnosis, and so what? Because you're not going to run all over me because you think that it's my mental health diagnosis that's causing this problem. Like, you're not going to blame that on me. And for me, it's not my responsibility to go back and say, hey, let's talk about this. No, you said what you said. You meant what you said. We're going to leave it there. I mean, I have these moments where I'm like, okay, there must be something wrong with both of us in order for this type of situation to be occurring, this toxicity to be occurring, but you're blaming me because I have a diagnosis that you know about. That's what I mean. So
Okay.
I don't find it my responsibility to always say that or do that. And I'm not going to.
No, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that's what I was saying either. I consider it a case by case basis.
Okay.
Because I for sure think there's situations where you're like, leave it alone.
Right. Okay.
You know, this was very clear. It's not worth talking about. But if you know it's somebody who is not that type of person, and you're like, whoa, this was kind of out of left field, let me make sure that this is what was meant before I kind of, you know, break off from that.
Okay, I get it. I understand. Because, no, I hope that you get it, because it's like,
I do.
Seriously. How do you limit your time with someone who has, how can I say this? With someone who's being negative? Like, for instance, I had a friend who felt that she did have a mental health diagnosis, right? And she full-time job, and she would go to work, and some people, I believe she said, knew about her issue, not by ways of her, but through the grapevines, okay? And she felt that they were saying negative things about her to other people, but yet she was present. And she never really confronted them, but she would be upset at it, and she felt that it was gaslighting, right? And so how do you handle circumstances where you're present and there's negative talk? Where does that leave somebody who is in an environment like work? Hey, April, how are you? I'm sorry, one of my, how's everything? I hope you're doing well.
Yeah, it can be tough in a work environment. I've never experienced that exact situation that you're talking about, but I have had situations where I'm in shared office spaces where you are with the people by default. It's not like you can get away from them.
Right.
And you're working 8 hours a day. They're by you and having these negative types of talks. And I learned that it was a matter of boundary setting in some cases, where you literally have to tell them, either you tell them directly, I don't want to engage in this topic, or you might say, I need to be able to concentrate and focus on my work.
Right.
So I kind of need a quieter work environment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that helps you in those types of situations.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's also a level of self-work that you have to do
Mm-hmm.
to be able to get into various different types of environments.
Mm-hmm.
Because in our home space, sometimes we can say, this is my space. Nothing else can enter this space. I can make
Right.
sure what I'm watching, who's talking to me on the phone, what I look at on Instagram, you can control all of that.
Right.
But then once you get out into the world, sometimes variables come at you that you might not have expected,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to learn how to kind of weather the elements.
Absolutely. Mark, let me just stop for 1 second.
Sure.
Today's discussion, we were supposed to talk about bullying. However, the discussion has changed because of some circumstances. When you watch this again, it's going to explain it to you. So right now, we're just talking about positive and negative self-talk that is around us or directly to us. And yes, thank you. April, Reflections of Beauty, is somebody that I go to when I need a t-shirt made. And I just want to shout her out at this moment. She actually made this t-shirt for me, which is this one.
I
Which
need
I
some
love.
t-shirts. I might need to follow you.
Yeah, it says my origin story. I pray. So April does my t-shirts for me. And so I just want to and she also has, this lady is just such a fashionista. She wears my mask so dope. Like the way I envision it, she does it. So I am so grateful for you for just representing my brand. And I do represent yours. And sometimes I don't mention you and sometimes I do, but I just want to tell you that I am grateful that you have been in my life. So, and she says, please do, Mark. Contact her, Reflections of Beauty. She'll take care of you, okay? Yeah. So thank you. So yeah, Mark, so in regards to just limiting conversations, it's true. In the workplace, you cannot control it, but you can control the way you respond to certain things. You can directly tell somebody, hey, I really need to concentrate at work. I really need to take care of this project in order to get away from whatever gibberish they're talking. And I do call it
I want to add something to this too.
Mm-hmm.
If you walk into somebody's house
Mm-hmm.
and you notice that the floor is dirty and everyone has their shoes on,
Mm-hmm.
most likely you're going to be like, well, this is the standard of the house.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not taking my shoes off and I'm just going to track whatever was on my feet
Mm-hmm.
all through the house.
Mm-hmm.
If you know that as soon as you walked into that person's house, they said, hey, I have a rule here. Wipe off your shoes and take them off because there's no dirty shoes are allowed in my house.
Mm-hmm.
At first, you might be like, wow, this person is a little too serious. But you're like, the next time you come in, you don't want to hear that. So you're automatically going to wipe off the shoes and take them off before you come into the house. So my point of saying that is, I'm sure you've been around a person who you're like, this person is not with toxicity and drama at all. And they will let you know as soon as they start hearing it, that's not for me.
Right.
So when people know that that type of person is around, they're going to be like, I'm not going to have those conversations around that person because I know that they're going to be Debbie Downer and they're going to tell me they don't want to hear it. So they'll have them over here. They'll have them over here.
That's
so
me. I'm that person.
Yeah.
I am that person. Yeah. Like when I walk into a room and there's a certain situation that I don't want to be a part of, people know. Like I used to work in a place is extremely, I think I've mentioned it before in one of these lives where it was toxic. And, but they knew not to bring that to me, but they tried it. And I could hear the conversations, but I never involved myself in them because they were I want to say it in a way that it doesn't sound disrespectful to people when they hear this live. So I'm going to keep it or try to keep it as respectful as possible. But when someone walks into a room that you know does not allow that type of discussion, you have to shift the room when you walk in it, is what I'm trying to say.
Yes. Yes.
There has to be a shift and an understanding that this person does not allow that type of conversation. Either they're going to close their mouth, or they're going to whisper, or they're going to keep you out of it.
Exactly.
But they're always trying to pull you in, and that's a problem. But,
Exactly. You got to be the energy instead of conforming to the energy.
that's right. We have to shut it down. That's right.
Shut it
Reflections of
down.
beauty. We definitely have to
Shift the
shut it
room.
down. Absolutely. And this goes hand in hand with 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 God. Okay. So I never really have discussions about God during these mental health things, but this is where my grounding came in, to be able to
Hmm.
handle what was thrown at me. Because without God, I wouldn't be able to handle what I've been handling,
Hmm.
and what I've handled in 2020. So yeah, there is an atmosphere shift when you're grounded in God and grounded
I like that.
in yourself. What did she say?
She said,
Shift
I
the
had to
room.
walk into the room like God sent you. I like
That's
that.
right. Yes, that is very true. Um, there's a lot of there's so many things when it comes to mental health. So many things, and so many topics, and so many areas that need to be discussed, because I feel that people people need to hear it. People need to know that they're not by themselves. People need to know that there are other people who are going through things, and it may not be, and I've said it before, it may not be extreme, but sometimes even a little bit of a crisis can send you into a mental health decline, mental wellness decline, rather.
Hmm.
Okay, just want to see what's going on here. Okay, so my last question, and I don't want to keep you too long, Mark. Sometimes it happens, and just my last question is, how do you handle? Now we went over a little bit of how you handle situations, but how do you handle someone who isn't aware that you have a mental health crisis and you're in the healing process?
Yeah, I know that you had said specifically if someone's not aware that you have a mental health crisis and you're in the healing process and says something to you that could potentially derail you from
Mm-hmm.
that,
Mm-hmm.
possibly unintentionally on their end because they
Right.
don't even know.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that goes kind of back to what I said earlier,
Mm-hmm.
which is that you always have to take the source into account.
Okay.
When we talked about the word's not coming to me, disclosure. When
Mm-hmm.
we talked about disclosure in the other live,
Mm-hmm.
I believe in disclosure, but I don't believe that it's necessary for everybody
Right.
because not everybody has the capacity to take on everything that you're telling them that you go through.
Mm-hmm.
So you might have that type of person in your life where you're like, I have them in this particular box.
Mm-hmm.
I know that we're not going to talk in depth about mental health issues. They
Mm-hmm.
can't handle that. They're not really going to understand me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I say keeping the source in mind and being able to say, you know what? The person doesn't know what I'm going through.
Mm-hmm.
The comment is something that was not intended, even though it kind of hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that they intended to hurt me in that way. So I'm going to just put that one down and let it go. And possibly, if it's somebody who makes repeated comments like
Mm-hmm.
that over a period of time,
Mm-hmm.
I have to limit that person's time with me.
Mm-hmm.
Less conversations, or in some cases, no conversations.
Mm-hmm. Well, I I understand that. I do. And sometimes I want to say, okay, even though they don't, I guess we've kind of hit that subject already, but I just wanted to kind of ask that, like, how do you limit your time? And how do you handle it? Like, yeah, you can limit your time, but how do you internally handle it? I guess is what I'm trying to get to, because those moments are great for them where you're like backing off or you don't say anything. But when you think about it, while it's happening, how do you diffuse it in your head so that you don't react in a certain way, and react and get in trouble, or react and overreact? You understand? So
Well,
I guess that's what I'm trying to get to. Whoops.
well, I have an answer to this. But it's not going to apply to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned how I have to respond based on what has happened to me in the past. And my responses always used to be instant.
Mm.
So as soon as I heard it, I would respond to that. If it was disrespectful, I respond to them disrespectfully right
Mm-hmm.
away.
Mm-hmm.
And in life, sometimes that might not matter. You both just walk away, go your separate ways. But it's happened to me in work scenarios
Mm-hmm.
where I felt like something was said that
Mm-hmm.
might have been intentional
Mm-hmm.
and impacted my mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And in the work setting, I acted like I was out of the work setting and there was no consequences.
Oh,
And there ended up
okay.
being consequences.
Mm.
So this
That's
is
important
where,
to know.
yeah, so this is where therapy kind of came into play and
Mm-hmm.
something that I learned in therapy,
Mm-hmm.
which my therapist told me when you get in those situations and someone says something to you that's kind of crazy
Mm-hmm.
and you have something in your mind to react at that moment, you're not the type of person who can articulate yourself well in the heat of the moment. So you need to get out of that situation if you can. And for me, that's taking a walk or listening to some music. That's
Mm-hmm.
like my coping skill because I can't even think right at
Mm-hmm.
that moment.
Now that
So,
you're saying
yeah.
that, no, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so once I'm able to kind of cool myself down,
Mm-hmm.
then I will think about the comment again.
Mm-hmm.
Was it as bad as I thought it was? If yes, how do I want to respond to this? What are the potential consequences of the type of response that I give?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I just turn up on this person,
Mm-hmm.
is it going to cost me something?
Mm-hmm.
Am I willing to lose whatever it is that I am potentially going to lose?
Right.
And then I formulate kind of what I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm.
And if necessary, I revisit the situation. But I'll
Mm-hmm.
tell you the truth. Sometimes I find that the situation is not even worth revisiting.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, leave that person alone.
Yeah. No, I get it. You actually, by mentioning these things, actually brought me back to something that happened to me a few weeks ago. I was actually at the laundromat, and and where I live, there's a community laundromat, so I don't have to go out, to a store or whatever. And if people usually just leave their clothes there and they walk away, I'm not that type. I stay with my clothes because, okay, nobody's gonna take my stuff. But and I want to be there so that when one load finishes, I can take it out and put it in dry or whatever. And so this particular day, this lady was back and forth, and I guess she decided that she was going to go home or do whatever she was doing. And then she came back late, so I had already taken her clothes out. It clearly said, if you blah, 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 somebody will take your clothes out. And so I did. And then when she came back, she was like, oh, somebody touching my clothes. Like she was all in it, like arguing. And what I realized at that moment is that I wasn't in the space to argue. I didn't want to argue. I'm in a space of peace, like SJR said, peace is a weapon. And it is, because I was very calm with her. And I could have taken it to a totally different level, but I wasn't. And I was calm, and she just kept going and going. And I was like, my response to her was like, oh, that's just very mature of you. She's like, oh yeah, but blah, 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 whatever she said, right? And not only that, she invited her mom into it. So her mother came, and it was a whole big thing. And I'm like, okay. And I'm just sitting there calm, like, wow, you guys really, wow. I have a video because I had to take a video. I was like, I can't believe she's going crazy over me taking her clothes out. And I get it. But the problem with that is that it's a problem for her because she went bananas. She cursed me out and everything. I didn't curse her out. I didn't call her out her name. I was just like, okay. I thank God that I pray and I meditate. Because if I hadn't taught myself how to do those things, and if I hadn't listened to or learned what my triggers are, it could have been a totally different situation. And so I
Yeah.
say that to say this: pray, meditate, and find your peace, your tranquility mentally, because that's going
Yeah.
to help you out of a lot of situations that don't need the response or meet the response that somebody else has given you, or the action that somebody else has given you. I don't know how to say that more eloquently, but that is what it is. You have
So,
to ground yourself so that you don't have to respond in the same way that somebody else is responding to you. In the words of Michelle Obama, we go higher. You know, that's
yeah.
they
So
go, we go
I'm glad.
high.
That's true. So
Mhm.
I'm glad that you used that exact type of situation. And by the way, so many laundromat situations are going in my head as you were talking about that, because I've had many of them. I've seen many of them, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah, it's
But I'm
crazy.
glad you used it's crazy in there sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm I told one of my friends that doesn't live in New York that I want to just take a video camera one day and make a series like laundromat fights
Oh
because it
wow.
happens so often.
But
Just as a joke.
it just
But
like, and I'm like, to me though, it's like, you know what I felt in those moments where she was shouting, because she was shouting for no reason. I felt so bad for her. I
yeah,
felt bad that she's not in a place of peace.
yeah.
I was like,
So
oh man, that's great. Because
so I
I used to scream a lot. I'm not even gonna front. I was like, I used to scream at people, and even my kids. I used to scream, and once whatever happened to me happened, I realized that I was driving myself crazy because I was letting everything compound. And the way that I was dealing with the issues is by screaming or being angry or being like just a crazy person. And by crazy, let me take that word back. Okay. Just being just irate about everything. I used to be like that. And that was such a bad way to live. So that's why anytime that somebody presents in the way I used to be, it bothers me because I don't want to go back to that place because I've gone past it. I've been through it and I don't want to go back. And that is the honest truth. Like I am at a place of peace and tranquility mentally and in my home. Like I could feel the tranquility and I don't want to go back to just, oh my God, you know, you didn't do this and you didn't do, I don't want to go back to that. You know,
yeah.
so that
So
space of peace and tranquility is very important. Positivity,
yeah.
very important.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's why I said I was glad you used that example
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of people see me. I go through situations every day,
Mm-hmm.
mostly at work because that occupies the majority of my day, but also sometimes after work in my personal life where I could turn up in every situation. And a lot of people tell me, Mark, if I was you in that situation, this is what I would have done. This is what I would have said. They would have
Mm-hmm.
never been able to do or say this around me. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, yeah, but I could respond the same way you're talking about too. But for you, I guess you are comfortable living in this perpetual state of anger and high level anxiety.
Yeah, no, I
I've been
can't
in
do
that
it.
space. I've
You
been
know
in
me,
that
I know.
space,
Yeah.
and that's what caused me to have lots of different panic attacks and anxiety symptoms
Mm-hmm.
to where I'm like, ah, no, just like you said, God
Mm-hmm.
put this peace in me. You
Mm-hmm.
can have that. Sometimes people will come into those situations, right?
Mm-hmm.
The lady was looking for you.
Mm-hmm.
And by that, I don't mean you specifically,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like anybody who starts with me, any kind of a way,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to just let them know and tell them about themselves. And I'm just going to turn up
Mm-hmm.
because that makes me feel better about myself. Or it just releases this kind of angry energy on them. And then I can
Mm-hmm.
ruin their day. And then they walk around with it.
Yeah, no.
So it's great for you to be in that space
Mm-hmm.
where you're like, you know what? I feel sorry for what this person is going through
Mm-hmm.
and but excuse me with this energy. it's not going to be internalized.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. April says, I can't stand a bully. I hear that. I hear that. That's how I feel. Like, and I'm not even gonna front. Like I said, and you know, the discussion that we were supposed to have today in regards to bullying, I
Mm-hmm.
I've had so much time to think about how I deal not only with my kids but with people in the outside world. And I realized that when, and this goes to that bully situation, like when I respond in that way, that aggressive way, that is actually a part of bullying. And that's why I had to take a stance in the way that I respond to people and especially my children. Because, and I guess we're going to go into the bullying thing just a little bit.
Yeah.
Bullying comes in different forms. It's not just
It
about
does.
the kids in the playground or the kids at school. Adults can be bullied. Okay. And parents don't realize that by screaming and all this other stuff, they're bullying their children. I had to realize that too. And that's that's one of the things that I can't wait to speak to Shanta about, because I realized throughout my treatment and throughout my inpatient and outpatient treatment that is all part of that bullying scenario. Yeah.
I want to,
That's
I
why
want to, I had a,
Thanksgiving is important for me now.
right. As I was telling you about, she might have come looking for you. There
Mm-hmm.
was a situation where I walked into McDonald's by my
Mm-hmm.
house one night,
Mm-hmm.
and a person was in front of me ordering their food, and
Mm-hmm.
then they told the customer, "Oh, I'm sorry, the register is frozen." So they were
Mm-hmm.
like, "Just get on the next register." And they
Mm-hmm.
were like, "No, I have to reset this register.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gonna take like 5 minutes, and then I'll get your order. I'm sorry about that."
Mm-hmm.
The customer flipped out.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, "You're so stupid. You're incompetent. What's
Mm-hmm.
so hard about going to the next register?" They took out their phone. "What's corporate number? I'm going to call corporate." Let's say the person's name was Amy. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
"I'm on the phone. I'm on the phone right now."
Mm-hmm.
And then they went on Facebook Live. They're recording that person. And I was like, this is a lot to do for your small
That's
fry.
a lot. That is a lot. That's a
So
lot.
I
But
said to myself, did
hold
that
on.
person really?
That's
Yeah.
just, Mark, I get that. That's a lot. But when you're in a store and they have 100 people on the floor that work there and one person on the register, that's a problem. I've been in those situations where there's one person on the register and then there's other people maybe doing inventory on the floor. And it's like, okay, if you see a line though, I mean, that's a different scenario, but if you see a line and you're not coming to help, that's an issue.
Mhm.
That's an issue. So
That sounds more like a Walmart scenario.
yeah, but they do it all the time, and I've done it where I'm like, excuse me, don't you guys have somebody else that can help at the registers? And then they'll come and help. Oh, I'll take the next one. Okay, but you saw the line. So unless somebody says something, you're not going to say. And this is just how society is just allowing people in these stores and places to do whatever they want. They take away their employees, they fire their employees, and then expect customers to come in and wait. That's not fair. Employ more people. You'll have a better response with other people. But I get it. I get what you're saying, and that was extreme. But I have to say my piece on that too. Like, come on, some stores are ridiculous when it comes to customer service. So they could have used another.
I think it depends though. I think that your situation is very different than what I'm talking about,
Yeah, no, I know.
because because sometimes those people at those registers have an attitude where they're like, "You're
Yeah.
just gonna have to wait,"
Mm-hmm.
and
Sure.
and I would be upset in that type of scenario too. I
Mm-hmm.
felt in this one it was really quick response.
Yeah, that
But
was extreme. That was a little much. But you know, we live in a society where people want just instant everything, and that's not fair either. I get it. And we do have to realize that because somebody works somewhere doesn't mean that they make the decisions. I get it.
Yeah.
So they may have told her, no, that's your register for the day. Do not move from that. I get it. But the customer's response was completely out of line. But I'm going to say what I'm going to say. Don't let us have to wait. You know, we
Yeah.
work there and we certainly don't live there. So I don't want to spend more time than I need to in a store. Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, Marc, I just want to really thank you for coming on this evening, and just being here and doing this with me. I appreciate it. It's music and mental health.
No problem.
We're unzipping journeys and no longer masking our traumas. And there's going to be so much more conversations coming in regards to that and mental health, as well as other topics. So stay tuned, and hopefully you hear this live. And you can listen to Marc. Marc, next time we probably need to pull your ukulele or your saxophone out and play some music for us.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, cool. Well, thank you so much for being on, and I appreciate it. If you guys haven't bought the ZipZipMask, go to ZipZipMask.com. They are super dope masks, if I do say so myself. Okay? Thanks, Marc.
Okay, no problem.
All right, later.
Bye.